Hi everybody, I'm Jenny Pearse and this is the Jenesis Gems Podcast. Enjoy this next episode. We're back with the Jenesis Gems Podcast and I have a wonderful guest this week that I'm really looking forward to having a great conversation with, and that's Clinton Weeks. Welcome, Clinton.
Oh, thanks, Jenny. Great to be here.
Clinton, you are the CEO of Contract Paraplanning Services, and you and I guess, connected through a very important platform when when you think of it, and that is LinkedIn. I have to tell you, one of the things that attracted me to reaching out to you and connecting with you was your LinkedIn profile headline. I just loved it. I thought it was super cool the way you had allowed your true self to shine through. I'm just going to refer to my notes here. So you have leader CPS, family guy, paraplanner dude, wannabe rock star, thinks a lot, will create. I couldn't think of a better way to describe you. What do you think about that?
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I was just trying to encapsulate everything that I could. I reintroduced myself to the social networks effectively the end of last year, probably starting November, December in 24. And I was just like, what do I want to encapsulate in my heading? So when people first click on the profile, do they get like a really quick snapshot of how I think, operate, and what's my, personal branding? So that's what I came up with. I literally just sat down and wrote it out really quickly and didn't overthink it.
I think as you know, I'm a big lover of branding, particularly personal branding, but branding in general. And I think what it did, it allowed me to get to know you in milliseconds, and it resonated with me, and it made me think, oh, I've really got to just follow this guy. I've got to get to know him more. Like, it just opened the door, and I don't think people understand the power of these type of things. Do you?
No, that's right. I think we can communicate really quickly with each other if we just think a little bit about how would you actually do it in the real world and bring it online. So if you had like a elevator pitch at a meeting, or if you were just at a party and people were like, what do? You naturally know what to say if you've thought about it a little bit. And then we get online and we freeze and we're like, oh, now I have to basically be like a corporate entity. And I don't think that's true at all. I think people just want to see the same thing that they see from you at a party or at the beach or at the park. The way you would talk to them there, they kind of want that quick data snapshot of who you are, just in written form on LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's so true. I think we do tend to tie ourselves in knots, and we try to be the version of ourselves that we think people want to see rather than our true self. So
I think thinking is probably the word there, because as soon as we start thinking, we're getting in our own way, and we probably naturally know, because I'm 43. I've had a lot of life experience thus far, and if I haven't learned how to introduce myself and know what I'm about by now, then I'm in a bit of trouble. So that's already in me, and we just have to translate it properly to the way that people want to hear it from us, basically.
Well, that's very true, actually. Speaking of that, by the sounds of it, you've had a lot of work experience, a lot of life experience. Why don't you give us, a snapshot, a little bit of who you are, so that our listeners, our audience, can get to know you?
All right. My quick snapshot is a really bad student, not because I wasn't able to handle the task put in front of me by the teachers. It's just that the structured school system didn't suit the way that my brain operates, and I got bored quickly. If I get put in a box, I pretty much have to try and rip out of it. So I did that, didn't do well. I went back years later actually to night school and just finished all the bad grades that I did. But that was on my own time and dime. So that's a very classic thing of me to do it late. I moved into banking mainly because a job offer just came up. I had an uncle who was a manager in the bank, and he basically said, look, if you want a job, it's probably not a better path than just jumping into it here. And I started in all the normal avenues: customer service, teller, bank teller first, moved into a paraplanning unit within the Commonwealth Bank system, Colonial First State, and a fairly predictable path from there. Became a bank financial advisor through CBA. Was really successful there, but what I found was the same thing as the schooling system. As I had more and more ideas on how I wanted to talk to clients and almost run my day and my structure, I felt the closed walls coming in. I had to break out again. And I actually went to them and proposed some more radical structures to my day. And being the big beast that the CBA is, basically said, no, thanks. And I said, all right, well, I'll see you later. And that's when I started my first paraplanning company with a friend of mine who was also trained in that same system. So that was my first foray into company life. It went really well. And I did that for a number of years and then decided, all right, I got to try the financial advising thing. It didn't work for me the first time. I've just got to make sure. And I opened up the practice through the MLC brand for quite a few years, made some really great relationships with clients there. A couple of hundred clients we had at that practice. And that was my second foray into business. Really successful, profitable, great value to the clients. But again, I felt closed in and I felt the scalability wasn't big enough. And funnily enough, I was talking to someone about this yesterday and they had the same experience as someone that likes to provide value to a lot of people. You can only touch so many people through your financial advice and whatever your capacity is at that practice level, that is where you're limited to in who you can provide value to. So started a family, we sold the business, and that's led me to this journey here where I'm like, all right, what is the next path? And it was back through paraplanning, which I ultimately found more comfortable. Started contracting through CPS, and the opportunity came up in September 24 to purchase CPS because the previous owner, Hayley Knight, she was familiar with the way I work, my experience in background, financial advice, and business ownership, and thought I was the right person to lead the charge. So together with my wife, Chloe, we are now running that and looking after close to 20 advice practices and about the same number of contract paraplanners as well.
Wow. You've jammed a lot in.
Yeah.
There's so many questions springboarding off that. So I want to just hark back to obviously being a financial advisor first time around within the banking sector and then stepping into the MLC format of being a financial advisor, two different types, I guess, of sort of styles of advice.
Yeah.
My question to you isn't necessarily about where you were a financial advisor, but really, when you were a financial advisor, what was the passion point for you? What was the thing that you loved the most about it? Because, it's a bit of a mystery to most people when they're coming into this industry as to, what is it like to be a financial advisor? And I think you've got a unique seat in that you've been one, and obviously, and now you're in a support service, so I'd really be interested to hear what was the thing that you enjoyed the most about being a financial advisor?
The first part is you don't know, because a financial advising job encapsulates so many different tasks. Probably when you first get into it, you don't know what's going to really gravitate to you, which bits you like and which bits you don't. And the two bits that I really gravitated to and I know I love and I'm now bringing into my current roles is I actually was really good at rallying up the troops for referrals. So in the banking sector, that meant in the morning grabbing whiteboard for 10 minutes and talking to the customer service staff about what are the appropriate people that we're looking at and how can they quickly disseminate the information that from them to us to get them through the door and just have a chat to me, get on the phone, get a message out to them. And I really enjoyed rallying up the troops in the morning and I was quite good at that. And I noticed that straight away. And the second part was the hard parts of financial advice where like right now we're experiencing a market downturn and those conversations and helping clients realize, okay, this is really a hard moment. But if we do the valuable steps right now, this is where we can get through and really pay dividends in the back end. So actually helping them through that emotional, process-driven combination, I found I was really good at and excelled at as well. So I think in those two cases, a lot of financial advisors, especially in the banking system, they wouldn't like either of those two. And those are the two I gravitated to, which made me a little bit more unique in our team. It was noticed. And right now, that's what I get passionate about as well. So I brought that through to the current role where I just actually love creative problem solving on a day-to-day basis. So almost the harder, the better is what really gets me rolled up.
I like the idea that you saw yourself as a problem solver because we spend a lot of time in the financial services game talking about the end and not necessarily the process, and often that's the part where it
It's
is
the good
about
bit, right?
problem solving and understanding the problem in the first place,
Yeah.
you know. So we're so solution centric, and I think that's just I think that's our social sphere. But I also think that, it's the bumps and scrapes that we've had over the last 10, 20 years that we've learned to only talk solutions because we're too scared to talk about the process until, to there, until we get that person sitting in front of us. So that was really great. Thank you. I'm keen to know, one of the things that you mentioned was the scalability. One of the reasons why you stepped out of advice was scalability, and that was the thing that you didn't enjoy. So what would be some of the other things that you didn't find a positive experience when you were being a financial advisor?
Yeah, I think ultimately why I'm not a financial advisor right now is the overall structure that I try and break out of, because there has to be a certain level of structure to your day, because you are with clients. You're talking to them a lot. They have to be on a timetable. You have to be on a timetable, and ultimately, that really does hamper a lot of creativity and flexibility, in the sense that how you can run your day. And it was just a little bit too structured for me. So that's the part that I dislike the most. And right now, if something's hot and I have a good idea or a conversation I need to have or a problem I need to solve, I like to be able to jump on that, prioritize, reshuffle things. And that's not necessarily in the power of a typical financial advisor when their day or their week or their month is fully set out. So that's the one thing that I found frustrating for me. And for another person with a different mindset, that would be absolute heaven, that they know for the next month, I have got all these things lined up. I'm going to change so many lives, and I'm going to talk to XY people. And but for me, it just didn't quite click. And if it doesn't do that, you're eventually going to rub against that with friction and maybe not love the process as much. So I had to be mindful of that.
Yeah, and look, if the shoe doesn't fit, don't wear it. Like,
Yeah.
you either know it's right for you or it's not. And I think you gave it a good crack.
Yeah.
And I think too that, when you're the primary advisor in a practice, there's, it's like, how many caps are you wearing? I feel for, those single advisor practices at the moment, those sole advisors at the moment, because there is so much downward pressure on them, and they're trying to be all things to all people, which kind of segues to hence the reason to outsource.
Yep.
So I want to talk to you about building a service business for financial advisors. So you touched on the fact that you had stepped back into paraplanning after you sold your business, and obviously the effervescent Haley Knight with CPS, and you were able to purchase the business along the track. So tell us a little bit more about that, that process and what that's been for you.
Yeah, well, I was contracting in the business just for you could call it like a little side hustle, to use a term that's popular, but effectively it was the way CPS operates is quite integral to tying the story together, which is the paraplanner is paired with the financial advising practice in nearly all cases, where they get to know and grow alongside the process of the advice practice. Whereas other paraplanning models, there might be almost like a conveyor belt of the request comes in and you don't know who's going to get that. Creates efficiency, of course, so anyone can pick it up, but you miss out on the personal part of a paraplanner really getting to know your business, much like if you just had a sole paraplanner that you went out and found yourself. So it's very much a model that works on scale, but has that personal touch. Now, I was one of those. I was working with practices. I was loving it. And this opportunity came up when Haley approached me. But the idea really appealed to me that we can create the best of both worlds in there. Not everyone wants to get on the efficiency conveyor belt and just have their requests go into a hole and not know what's going to be output, because the person that's creating the document every time is different. And there's a time and place for that, and there's a cost for that. But this model goes the other way. And that's what really appealed about me, the human touch. We have, like, I look through our portal where the advisor interacts with the paraplanner, and some of the threads are just like a chat thread that you would see on like Facebook, and like, hey, how you going? How's the kids? What did you do on Sunday? And that's amongst them clarifying questions about the advice. So it's just like some of them are just like like you've dropped into a private chat channel and they just know each other so well, because some of these relationships are 10 years old. So that's the rewarding part for me. And that's what I really loved about this, because Hayley, to her credit, she really crafted a arena where paraplanners could work at this as a lifestyle, and really push that angle that this is a great place to work. And the payment rates and the things that we charge are really quite competitive with if they went off and found another job or they were trying to be poached. We like that retention aspect, that they get the flexibility and the payment there. So all those things came together to make it just a great company that I wanted to be part of and have ownership in, because I was part of it to begin with. Yeah.
So there would have had to have been a mindset shift for you, going from being in the business to suddenly, hey, Chloe and I are now owners of this business. We're now the bosses.
Yep.
And there's a couple of things there. Working with your life partner. I do that, and that you have to really know how to structure things. And two, you're no longer the contractor, you're the person doing the contracting. How did you approach that?
Yeah, firstly, give up all the reins on the paraplanning. So that's something even financial advisors find really bad, from coming in from a paraplanning point of view into a financial advice business, trying to do their own paraplanning. So immediately find the right people that can take over those clients that I'd been doing work for 3 or 4 years. It's a really precious relationship.
Yeah.
So how did I know which people to do? I literally spent the first 2 months just running out of breath by ringing every stakeholder in the business. So that included ringing every paraplanner, finding out what's good and what's bad, what they want from the future, what their capacity is. Do they want to change? Are they unhappy with the advice practices they're working with? Can we do a whole switcheroo? Things like that. And having a fresh face in there as CEO really shakes things up, because it opens back up the conversation that just may have become a bit stale because it was business as usual. So it allowed all these voices. And what I found was everyone wanted to talk. So I was like, oh my God, we've opened up the communication channels, and every day for months, it was just like either phone calls or messages just saying you heard things that you didn't think were happening. And I had to do it with advice practices as well. So some were multi chats with like all the stakeholders in advice practice sitting around a webcam or whatnot. And you're just having these hour-long meetings, and they're just like opening up again because of maybe the shakeup of a new CEO. They just wanted to talk about what's good and what's bad. And you just heard people that are absolutely like glowing in their review of the person they're working with in CPS as a company. And on the back end, there were some of them that were like, oh, we just haven't looked at this for ages because we've been super busy. And you know what? This isn't really working for us. So going out and just investing that time in the businesses and the people and the paraplanners was just so invaluable. And I had, I just started with a Trello board at first, but just had columns and columns and columns of, all the information and dissecting it all. And then after those conversations, it was time to basically go, all right, what are we going to do about each individual case? And then what are we going to do overall to maybe revamp the processes for the best result?
Yeah. I must admit, that's the first thing that when you were telling me about all these conversations, I'm thinking that's a hell of a lot of data bytes at the end of every day.
Yep.
And no, whilst a lot of the photos we see of you're out running and walking in the bush, trying to decompress that brain at the end of any given day. So, I do think that one of the questions that you mentioned there was that you mentioned Trello board, which is a good segue into technology and embracing technology. I mean, how pivotal is that for your style of business or for your business or businesses in general?
Yeah, I think people separate personal life and business way too much. And I find that if I did that especially with even thinking about my tech and my thoughts and my mindset, it would all fall down, and it probably did at various points. I think what people need to do, and what I do, this is my personal recommendation, is you need to know every time that you have a good thought or a problem or whatever's going through your head, you need somewhere where you can put it, get it out of your head and onto a system as quickly as possible. So for me, that includes having multiple apps that have different areas. So I have one called My Mind, which I subscribe to, and My Mind is exactly just like whatever's on your phone or whatever content you're coming across, you can just immediately dump it in there and get to it later. Articles, videos, audio, whatever. So as soon as I see something, instead of going, oh, I better read that because I'll forget to go back to that email later, I just dump it all in there. And it's a grid style media capture system that just is easily get to later. So that's for content that I come across. So anything that's good. And then when I have a thought about something, I have another system that's called Linear, and I audio voice note it to myself, and there's a shortcut on the phone. As long as I say the shortcut word, it'll go directly into the system. So if I'm out on the bike or I'm running or I'm going for a walk or I'm walking around the house or washing the dishes, if I just have that thought, I've got to get it down really quickly. So I have an audio shortcut that actually goes and puts it in the software immediately. This just absolutely changes your life because immediately you're not trying to keep all this stuff in your head, and now you can use all your bandwidth for actual people and problem solvings in your business. So that, to be honest, before we even talk about business tech and how you make your business more efficient, you've got to have a data capture system for all your thoughts and your content that you come across, and just get it out there as quickly as possible.
So that was My Mind and Linear.
Linear, yeah. And look, you could probably find about 15, 20 of each that you could swap and change. Yeah. But that's what I use, and that's just came through testing different ones, and yeah. And there is actually a third that I've started using, which has become really helpful. I realized there wasn't a spot for creative brainstorming and writing out ideas. So you've got immediate thought capture, you've got content capture, and then what do you do with that? Like when you get a good idea or a good thought, where do you put it and how do you work on it? So what system do you work on? You could jump into maybe like a Miro board is popular for mapping out things, but I find actually, wordy data system, and I use one called Sublime, which is in beta stage at the moment. And Sublime is for creatives that want to get their thoughts in there, but then also work on the thoughts. So develop them further. So you can make notes, you can put them on a canvas board, and you can start to use it a bit like Pinterest, but for your ideas effectively. Yeah. So that's really helped as well to get the creative juices going.
What about working with the team?
Okay, so when it comes to the business, I was pretty lucky. They had a pretty good workflow system that is it's almost like a grid-like system. It's called Smartsheet, and effectively Smartsheet is a bit like Airtable's probably the more popular one. It's a database-driven. You can have grid, you can have Kanban board or whatever, and that system there actually just allows a lot of functionality, and it wasn't all being fully utilized when I took it over. So I actually just did a big deep dive into that, and our entire workflow now, when a request gets put in by an advisor, it actually jumps into this grid-like workflow and pings the paraplanner to say, hey, you've got a plan here. Come in here, quote, clarify, update the sheet with the status, and that's like our master workflow. And from that master workflow, the reason it works so well is we can actually build dashboards off the top of that workflow that we can then send out to the advice practices where they only see their data of the workflow. And the reason this is important is because the same data that the paraplanners are editing and working on is actually pushed through to the advisors. There's not a separate system where we now have to transport the data over to what the advice practices see. Whatever the paraplanner is seeing and whatever I'm seeing as CEO, that the advisors can see in their dashboard as well. So we just have one system to have a source of truth for data, if you know what I mean.
Wow, that's really that's epic. I mean, certainly as a business owner myself, half the problems we face is the double dipping of tasks. Yep. You're doing something over in this piece, and then you're suddenly having to do it again over this piece, and then you're doing it over here on this piece, and by the end of the day, I've done the same task 3 times, but in 3 different software systems.
Yes.
We have to, and I wouldn't say I'm a tech phobe, but I am definitely not a tech nerd. I'm probably that person that walks down the middle and goes, okay, I know a little bit of this and I know a little bit of that, and I just got to try and make it work. So, and I think there's a lot of people like me out there because we're so busy doing so many other things. We don't invest the time into what I guess Hayley before you and yourself since then have done, is that's really micro analyzing the best use of the software that you have or the technology that you have to get the most out of it. So you're not doubling up on those activities.
Yeah, and I think the tip I'd have is there are times when you need to use best in class multiple technologies to talk to each other, right? There's no use if something is just not doing what eventually you need it to do, you need to then send it out, whether it's connected API or whatever, to another software. You're there. But what I find there's a lot of meat on the bone in softwares that people just haven't spent even the month as a priority going through upfront. Can we milk this software for all it's worth? Are we using all of its features in the right way? So mapping out the process, okay, starting with a blank slate, what actually has to happen? And can this software achieve it? Very rarely do I see people actually going back to that stage of blank slate and going, what are we actually trying to achieve process-wise? And then having the technology do it and just utilize it, max it out to its full capability. They generally just go, rather than that, is there just another one that I can send the data to and start? And that's just way quicker and way easier. So I get why it happens, but I don't think it's the right solution. So yeah, effectively, I just deep dive, burn months at a time on something and just go, can we just squeeze everything out of this before we go and send it off to another system via automation? So
Yeah, I must admit when Michael, my husband, introduced Asana into our business, and I was, in fact, Peter Diamantidis, she introduced us to Trello in a business planning session that we were doing with her. She's a very good friend, and she was like, "Okay, you two, I'm saying you need Trello." And we trialed Trello for a while, and then we shifted over to, Asana. Michael did the deep dive and said, "Okay, this is for us." And I was the protagonist. I definitely was.
yeah.
But each day, each week, each month, I've just released myself more into the power of what these plannings, these, I guess, project planning tools can do. And they are task driven, but there's so much you can do within them. And I mean, it's such a learning curve, but by the time I get to the end of each month and think, yeah, I'm doing things differently, and that's really a good thing. That's a positive thing for not only myself personally as the business, as the managing director, as well as the person that's at the forefront of all of this. But it's also great for my team, our people, to be able to do the things that they need to do without relying on me to be the person that flicks the switch on literally everything.
That's your investment, right? You spend the time, it's painful, and then you reap the rewards later on when things go bad, you need someone else to do something, and the structure is there.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I want to just step. You've spoken a lot about relationships, and to some degree, the talk on technology is also about relationships because it frees people up to their time to be a personal connection to the advisors they're working with, but also to get on and do the task at hand. I want to talk about now this era of CPS and your core values and how you've brought that to the table with the CPS clients. You mentioned the phone calls and all that sort of things. How do you feel you're sort of sending that message across?
Yeah. So what's next is I am really interested in the best way that we can do things. It's probably evident by now, just listening to me chat about things. And sometimes that means living in the future a little bit too much. And I have to bring myself back. And I'm reminded by this. I have some good people around me that say, that's all cool, what you're talking about for hours, but what are you doing about it now? And then I have to kind of bring myself back. That's my flaw. It's good, but we need to execute now as well. So what I'm thinking about is we're trialing and piloting different things of the way that we can make paraplanning better. And that's probably going to be our MO going forward. So CPS has always been fairly traditional in the sense that you onboard your practice, you're usually with a licensee, usually with Xplan. There's a template, the paraplanner goes in, pushes the data through to the template via a wizard, and out it pops. But we're now starting to see different technologies and tools and processes that can help that. And that's what I'm really interested in, to provide extra value for the paraplanner, doing it quicker, which then leads on to the advice firm getting their plan back quicker. And then we can have a whole conversation around cost after that, once we see that the efficiencies are now gained. So two areas that I'm most focused on right now. Up in the upfront area, there is a lot going on in AI file noting, which everyone will have seen. Most people will have dabbled in, and a few are doing really well. And we can actually utilize that for the paraplanning process as well. So in November, I was talking to Clarice and Stuart, and they helped us do a pilot run with a few select advice firms within CPS that we help outsource. And what we did is we grabbed audio voice file notes. So 10 or 15 minutes from the financial advisor. They said like things like, here's the strategies we're recommending, here's why, best interests, products, modeling, etc. But they did that in a verbal capacity, because my theory was, I think we can speed this up by 2, 3, 4 times by just saying it. A lot of financial advisors are talkers by nature, or at least they do it all day anyway. So I felt like them sitting down to write a paraplanning request, I think we can remove that completely. So we've had good uptake on that, and we're about to go a bit harder on that. So if people are like listening to this thinking, I haven't heard him show anything or talk about this yet, it's because we've just been really testing it all out. I need to make sure that it is actually a good value add, not just a novelty. So you'll hear a lot more about it soon. And what it does is it goes into the AI, and then there's prompts that structure it in a way that a paraplanner would be used to divulging the information. So scope of advice, objectives, what are the strategies? And it's in the relevant sections in a Word doc that they can just pick up and run with. And then the financial advisors can get it off their desk quicker, because a lot of the feedback is the busy firms that are growing quite quickly, that the advisor count or the support staff haven't grown with the capacity of the leads. They're just drowning. They're like, I've got 10 on my desk, I've got 12 on my desk. And is there a way that we can just get them into paraplanning quicker? And I'm like, it's just painful. There's not a way to really like shortcut that. We got to do the work, but can we do the work in a better way? Yeah. So that's one way. And then the second way, and you can quiz me on which one's more interesting, is really interested in digital presentations. So on the back end, when they get the output, we've been starting to use Advice Designer by the team at Finura, and that is a digital presentation in landscape view that is clickable and is sent to the client via a link. So suddenly, instead of going through an SOA, they're going through a landscape clickable web page that's in a nice format. It has interactive graphs as well. So the graphs that pull through from Xplan into this document, this digital presentation, are actually interactive as well. So I'm a pretty big component on, I really want to excel in the client experience as well, because sometimes we get so wrapped up in making things good for the advisor, we forget about there's a client at the end of this that is actually the only reason we're all here. Yeah. So it's really cool that the team of Finura were thinking about, what's a cool delivery method that instead of a client reading an 80-page Word doc, can they get a digital presentation that they can work through online in their own time, and the advisor can click through in the office as well?
I love it. I absolutely love it. I think at the heart of all of this is that you love business innovation. And I think, without a doubt, you've obviously worked hard on that aspect of the business. And I genuinely, both of those innovations, I think, have so much value because they encapsulate time and energy. And I think that's where value exists, and I feel like for me, when I look at, working with our clients, in Genesis, I know, a number of the financial advisors we work with, will go, I'll get a voice message from them, a voice file from them going, I've just come out of this amazing meeting. I've got to share this experience. Can we put together a case study? Can you share this on socials for me? And I love the fact that they're tactile enough to be able to go, this is something I want to share because I want people to know the value. And again, that value, but the energy piece, the component in that is that they've just, all I've had to do is record a voice file to send to me. And we do all the heavy lifting from there, So I think anything that adds value to an advisor and AKA the client is got to be a win-win. Has to be.
And I think voice is, I like to look forward to the future and just make like small predictions. And I just think voice is going to explode. I think much like the earlier example where we talked about, hey, if your personal branding was just a heading under your LinkedIn, why don't you just talk like you would normally, right? And shortcut the whole process of people getting to know you. I think the voice is effectively going to shortcut a lot of business processes too. We just don't think about it in the same way. We talk all day. We get on the phone. We talk like this. All right, we're on video now. We talk to our friends, our mother, our kids, all in voice, right? None of us sit there and write out things to each other. So I think we're ripe to like integrate it into our business life like we do our personal and stop separating the two. So I think that's where the big bang. So we're just kind of going to be betting on that as a way to do it. And I had a cool example this morning. I reached out to a person who works in the social AI space, so just supercharging social media for with AI. Very new, cutting edge. And I just went, tell me more about what you're about. Anyway, just the first thing she sent back was just a quick voice message saying, "Oh, this is such a lovely message, blah, blah, blah." It was immediate. She sounded like she was out at a diner or maybe at a conference or something, somewhere else in the world. And I was just like, that is just so quick. We just shortcut it. I should have sent a voice message to her if I'd known. So,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that I think as human beings, we're very visual in nature. So I think that images, video are always going to be a very strong suit because we can interpret with our eyes far quicker than anything else as far as our senses go. But I do agree with you that with the downward pressure on time,
yep.
with the downward pressure on a need to communicate, and the difference with voice over anything else is that it's personal.
Yeah.
Your voice is yours, although AI is doing a hell of a good job at copying our voices, but, setting that aside, the naughty people that are doing that sort of thing. But, I mean, I feel like you're on the right track as far as the voice side of things has so much power in it. And I think that's quite manifested in a digital marketing perspective. It still seems to be more visual aspect. Video is still trending very highly, but I do agree the whole voice piece is it's it's about your narrative, but B, it's that personalization. I think the more we can do that, the better. The more we can, the better. So,
Yeah. I think it just is one level more of connection than written word, and that's what a lot of business still is, written word. So
yeah.
yeah, in its right place, can we just like place that and get a bit more connection there? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's about employing all of those things, really.
Mm.
I think that's what business innovation is knowing when to tap into the right, the right tool, the right asset, whatever it is. But it's knowing that. And I think, as business owners, we've had to become more agile with that type of things because the world seems to expect us to be available 24/7.
Yeah.
And we all know we need sleep.
Yeah. And that was that pressure you are talking about. Things are accelerating and people are feeling the pressure to work really quickly, especially when things are going wrong. So like the markets, for instance, everyone feels like they have to go in a flurry rather than maybe sitting back and making one really good addition to someone's value when they're communicating. They might try and communicate 10 times to communicate something they could have done once really well. And if they just thought about how to be a little bit more efficient, a bit more emotive in that and impactful in that one communication.
Yeah, I think it's also getting to knowing the style of the person you're communicating with. We all receive information differently. Some people like the written word, some people like to, pick up a telephone and, which I was watching a little clip with you and
Yeah.
Abby, just the fact that, phone calls are becoming a thing again. And
Yeah. Everything
I
comes like,
like I like that because it's actually been happening to me too. So I actually thought that was super cool. But I want to leap into where we started, I guess, which is LinkedIn, okay, and your marketing, because for me, obviously marketing is it's my lifeline to everything, and it is just so important to me as far as helping elevate the voice of anyone that works in the financial services sector, but in particular financial advisors. But obviously, how I stumbled across you was through LinkedIn, and I want to talk a little bit about what process you've gone through with that, what you've decided what has worked for you, what hasn't, and obviously that evolution of your own branding, let alone sort of the fact that CPS exists.
yeah. The quick answer is I haven't decided anything is working or as good or as bad. So I'm coming at it from a angle of let's get on there and just be myself and let's see how I feel about it and then how others feel about it at the same time. So much like a conversation that we're having right now, we've got to fill it out and go with the dynamics of it. And I feel like the content creation of someone for personal brand or even corporate brand needs to be a two-way conversation that is constantly evolving. If you have a static idea of that you're going to go out there and just nail the brief without actually trialing things and seeing how they operate and getting real life feedback at the same time, then you're going to be like, it might work for a little bit, but then it's just going to become obsolete when you stay to that structure and don't work on the feedback. So my whole idea was from the get-go, don't stick to adhered structure. Instead, go with what I feel I would want to see from myself. So if I was looking at myself and looking at my posts and my feed, what's authentic right now? And I was reintroducing myself to the social network because I was away contracting, raising a family, I was doing some other things. I just wasn't online in that capacity where I had a personal brand. And or if I did, the personal brand was he's a contractor and he's hiding. So that's a brand in itself. But once I had to come out as a CEO of a company, I was like, all right, I just want to come out personally first. And it's funny, I got a text message from someone in the past day, and it's great timing to talk about this. And the text message was from someone I really value and respect their opinion on, and they are in the financial advice space. And they said, I'll paraphrase, hey mate, your LinkedIn stuff, I don't know if it's actually connecting the dots between what you do at company as a CEO and what you do personally. It seems like you're just flogging a personal brand. And I said back, I totally get that. I actually don't even disagree. So this is a funny thing about social media, I believe. I don't disagree. My initial intention was to reintroduce myself personally. And I didn't just want to come in and go, hey guys, rah, 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 let's talk about paraplanning 24/7. And by the way, I'm Clinton and you just know my name, but mostly I'm going to give you 5 tips on paraplanning every day. That seemed really inauthentic and not my style. For someone else, it can completely work because they're just providing value to the community based on data and insights and knowledge that they have. I do have those as well, and I probably could lean the other way and share a bit more of that, and I plan to. But initially I was like, no, I just want to play like the long game here and just do things a little bit differently because different is cool sometimes. And I get text messages like this and I realize there's confusion. It's like this guy talks about what he does in the mornings and he talks about content and he talks about, talking to people like yourself, Jenny, who excel in marketing, even though we are all in the financial advice space. What's he doing? He should be talking to financial advisors only or paraplanners only. Where's all that stuff? And so that's a bit of a rah-rah rant on just to give you a place where I'm at, like emotionally, but I feel really good about it. I feel it's conflicting. I do feel it's a little bit confusing. I understand if you confuse the audience, there is a problem with alignment and sales. And I just wasn't that concerned about the money left on the table by going with the long game for the moment, because another point that this person made is you are leaving money on the table, because if you just got out there and just absolutely spruik the knowledge that you have as financial advisor and paraplanner, you'd just absolutely like rake it in as far as people just wanting to come to you and go, can we use your service? But I found that all inauthentic. So rant over.
I think one of the key things with the power of a personal brand is that the very, very, very first step in developing a personal brand is that you define your voice from the inside out.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the whole the 2000s, we modeled ourselves on boardroom behavior, and it was very like this, we wear all collar and tie and very, cardboard cutouts, and we took that online. And I feel that now what we're seeing in this current evolution, it's not really this year, but it's been going on for the last couple of years really, is this, personalization piece, which we've spoken about a little bit before already, but it's now scaling it. And I think that people's expectations are that you may very well be the CEO of CPS, and that is a paraplanning business, but that's simply what you do. That's not who you are. And I think what you're doing now is allowing people to see who you are. The second step in defining a personal brand is crafting your online presence. And that's the stage you're at. Because the third stage is leveraging your knowledge, leveraging your thought leadership. And that's where you can start talking about your expertise. And you're kind of in that stage of building all of that. So I don't think you're doing anything wrong. I think you're actually doing everything right. So you're just taking your time in that process. Some people will accelerate through that very quickly. What you're doing is stepping through it in a way that your comfort zone can accept.
Yeah, I
Very
think,
happy
and
with it.
I think it goes back to that rushing part. I felt like, again, even another differentiator was not to rush it just because we got a business and we could make extra profit. That wasn't the driver of introducing myself to the social network. So the driver was genuine in just saying hello and going, if you're seeing these posts, then you at least know a little bit, you have more of an inside look into my world. And I think what you just articulated, which is absolutely perfect, and that's why you're the guru at this, is I'm probably somewhere in between that 1 and 2, and that's the friction that even these trusted friends are seeing. It's right in the middle there, and that's why there is what's the right disharmony. There's another word I was trying to think of, but that it doesn't quite click because we're in between the 2 stages.
Yeah. Look, sometimes we feel the agitation when, we're seeing someone go through their processes. And, I did a personal branding, program with a female advisor not all that long ago, working in a larger financial advice firm. And it was a very corporatized business. It's extremely successful, long-term business, like 30 plus years. But she was a newer financial advisor, and she really didn't kind of feel like at her stage in her career that she fit the model in her skill set. She loves working there. Their values are aligned, but to take that brand and suddenly make it her on her social platforms or in her digital marketing or in her client meetings even, she found it, she said the first 12 months was so painful because I felt like I was impersonating somebody. I wasn't really me. And I thought it really knocked me off my perch when she said, I felt like I was impersonating someone. And I thought, that's so true. That's that whole imposter syndrome thing where we tend to feel like we have to be someone else other than who we really are. And all you're doing is actually letting people see who you really are. And that's
and
amazing.
it takes the pain away, and it really does excite me, and it's so I just find the space so fascinating. That's why it's a bit meta at the moment, because it's kind of like, okay, you're in paraplanning, but why are you even commenting on content? So commenting on content, it's just like, because that's what we're actually all doing right now, and we're all working out this new age of personal brand, which I think personally will be so very important as work and automation does actually shrink our ability to do manual tasks. We'll create new jobs, but I think that the new jobs will be even more and more creative, and that will link even stronger to who we are personally in the future. So even, as valuable as anybody's company is, and as valuable as their pipeline of clients and leads are, I actually feel like years to come, that personal brand and the people that do the work on that side of things will actually eclipse their company value. I think just there's going to be a real change in the next 5 years where the personal brand can eclipse the company's brand, and that's just by putting in the work, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's and look, my belief as someone that works in marketing, obviously for many, many years, has been you should never let your business brand overtake your personal brand. Your personal brand is you, and at some point there will be a separation of the two, whether it's the sale of a business or whether it's you deciding to, fly off into the sunset, whatever it is, or whether you want to take a step back because you want to put somebody else in a role. Whatever, there should always be a differentiator. One of the things I do think you do particularly well, which is also another step in the power of owning your personal brand, is the authenticity piece in your client relationships or in your relationships in general. So you're kind of leapfrogging some steps here. So I do feel like, having had several conversations, a few conversations with you now, what you see is what you get. And I'm hoping that that's, back at you.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's true, like if you don't want to be one face in your marketing and a separate face when people walk in a room or pick up a telephone and talk with you or communicate with you. You need to be the same person at all times.
And Jenny, I see that all the time online. I read someone's post, and even the post can be so great. Like it can be the most valuable 5 tips that they want to put in bullet points or even in a brochure. Absolutely, completely valuable. But then I talk to them, and it doesn't sound anything like what their post sounds like. It doesn't sound anything like the cool brochure they put together. Now that's okay because that's by design. They wanted that to be absolutely like a whiz bang product that sits on its own and is, some value to someone else, a client or otherwise. But I think the closer we can merge the two, and I think we do that by just doing more of both things all the time and not actually just going straight to, I have insights and only value to provide. So I would be doing my clients a disservice if I don't just share that all the time and don't talk at all about myself or don't show my personality inside those insights. So it's a hard task to walk creative and business. Like I think a really cool example is Peter's recent podcast, Shit with Money. She's taken culture, popular culture, and a really dry subject, which is general money tips. She's combined them together for something that's interesting, right? Entertainment plus dryness. And
It's a cool podcast.
it's so cool. And that is an example. It has all the language and the flair of Peter without any corporate speak at all on a dry topic of money tips. Just being put in like veggies inside of a kid's food, just to hide it in there. And that's just a really good example of what we're trying to get at. But it's hard to start with the product and the business side and then backtrack into the personal side if you don't build that platform. I feel like if anyone wants a tip, like from what I'm doing, and there's no results yet with whether this is the best way or is going to work, but I'm pretty confident in it myself, is just to start there. So you don't have to backtrack. And, that example, the financial advisor you gave, she kind of had to weave it backwards, right? Which is even harder. Yeah.
It's a lot harder to do too. I
Yes.
get it. So I want to talk to you a little bit about what's on the horizon. So you've kind of sort of given a little bit, obviously, road testing a lot of technology, a few different things, but like what's on the horizon? What's the next 12 months looking like?
Yeah, so paraplanning wise, you will hear a lot more about those 2 avenues that we're exploring, which is AI file notes for paraplanning requests to get things off desk quicker and into the pipeline, and then digital presentations. So I'm gonna hit the socials pretty hard there and just like illustrate and demonstrate what we're actually doing there, so people can actually see firsthand there. So I'm excited to share that because we really have only just got to the stage where it's fully tested, and we're very confident in that process of making an impact on for paraplanners and financial advisors. So look out for that. And beyond that, I have a bit of a bigger side project where I don't mind divulging it. It's not a secret project or anything like that, that if someone wants to take it and steal it and do it, I'm happy to work with them on it. But effectively, I want to work out the best way that advice firms are employing processes and technology and I'm calling it sort of the 1%. So the very, very best. And I'm thinking globally here, if I can get the data and insights and talk to the right people, can we actually get the secrets of how these firms are working? It works as a synergy with CPS. It works alongside because, we are always looking for the best ways and the best people to work with. And can we learn from them and integrate that into our lives and our processes? And I'd love to systematize it a little bit where we can actually get it into a sort of playbook that's executable. So if we can get the right data and the right insights and have them valuable enough, can we actually put them in a format where people can execute on them? But even further than that, do they know the right people that can help them execute? Because the biggest thing is we have lots of answers out there, like, you should try this, you should try this. And then someone's like, well, we're busy. Like, who's going to help us implement this? So that's the roadblock that a lot of good advice has, where they need someone to actually hold their hand. And can I connect all those 3 together and get insight, execution, the right people? That's kind of the goal. So I would that's going to be even a slower build alongside. It's going to have a lot of synergy with CPS, but that's something that I'm really excited to work on in the future. So
I think you're in a very advantageous position because having, paraplanning, financial advisor background plus, business owner background as well a couple of times, all that, all that intel sits within you. And obviously, and I think your innate trait of being a problem solver, you're looking to efficiencies, you're looking to innovation, all of that can only end up in a positive. So I think, this sounds like a kind of cool little side hustle that you're working on.
My ultimate dream, my ultimate dream with it would be that if we can get to that stage where we're providing value and insights, then could we start to incubate brand new ideas? So if we have the best minds together, and I've created a network of these connections and people and ideas, could we then start to like get the best minds together to go, all right, we've got the best things, so let's make up new ones now. And can we test them? Can we incubate them? Can we roll them out and trial them? And so that would be the ultimate, like, down the line. And but we've got to start somewhere with the initial insights about what are the best ways right now, effectively.
It sounds very exciting to me. So, given the insights that you have in your career path, your career journey, business journey, the whole belts and dice, I'd be really keen on some gems from you or a gem from you as far as, whether you're a paraplanner, whether you're a financial advisor, like, what's a gem from Clinton that we can take forth from here?
Yeah, Genesis Gem. I think the biggest win that we've been having lately with the most forward-thinking firms that I think others should try and replicate is not waiting too long to change a process. So if something is really painful right now, find the right person for it. And then, so let's say outsourcing. So outsourcing is uniquely a pain point. People are growing too quickly. They need help with that. They need to take it from internal to external. And the best firms that we've been found and the process that we've been having, the gem I have for that is actually, once you can make that connection, work really, really hard and allocate some time to actually go back and forth with the executor, the person that's solving the problem with you, and actually just like almost flesh out the whole thing there. Don't just plug and play the solution and go, I need to outsource. We need you to take care of this. Let's go. Here's what we do. Actually work together with the person just a little bit harder, push a little bit harder on the fringes. So a good example of that is recently we just had like a cascade of about 10 emails back and forth, just iterating a process. So we're like, okay, here's where you guys are at. Here's what we reckon you should do to make this so efficient. Trial, email. Okay, a little bit better. Trial, email. And we just chipped at it about 10 times. And from when they signed on, if we just put them on as a general service outsource advice firm to our service, it would have been okay. It would have been good. But the fact that we kept at it for a couple of weeks and just iterated the process forward, just made it like it's now best in class of what we got. So not many people are going to do that. I hope people take that as a gem and just go, okay, yeah, next time we need to make a process change in our team, let's just chip at it 10 more times than normal till it's really good. It's a lot of hard work, but oh man, the difference is night and day from where you could be.
I think the takeout from that for me is that that you need to make sure that you're engaging with all the stakeholders.
Yep.
And the power of the feedback loop.
Yeah, you need to be actively engaged in the change, not just outsource the solution, because that'll come out okay, but it'll just be okay. Like it'll stay okay because you need it to be awesome. So, and the only way to do that,
solve problems inside our head, and we think we've got the solution and it's perfect, and then you'll sit in a team meeting and someone will go, but what about this? And you think, why didn't I ask that question first?
Yeah. And how many times have you gone to a tech provider or a outsourced business coach or whatever, and you've just left it up to them to come up with the answer? I've never had a good result just plain vanilla. It's always been when I've gone back and forth with them and worked on it. Yeah, it has to.
One thing I know, Clinton, is our discussions are never vanilla.
That's good. That's good.
We seem to cover all the topics.
We've covered so much, so it's been like, financial advice,
this is
business
a
management, marketing. That's cool. I hope people get some value from it.
I'm quite sure they will. And we'll tell them that they're getting some value. So I'm sure they'll believe us. Well, Clinton, it's been absolutely wonderful chatting with you. I've really enjoyed it. I think this has been a very broad conversation on a lot of topics, but by geez, I've learnt a lot. I really
Yeah,
have.
it's so enjoyable. I love chatting to you, and I really appreciate you having me on.
Thanks, Clinton. I will talk to you again soon. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and be sure to follow me, Jenny Pearse, on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, wherever you enjoy joining the conversation. Can't wait to connect with you. I'm looking forward to sharing some more Genesis Gems with you in the next session. See you then.